All right, let's get to the love story here. I met a girl, and her name was Christine. And she had green hair and a nose ring and combat boots, everything I wanted in a woman in the early 90s. It was love. It was mad love. And lived with her whole 9 yards. And then she left me to go tour around Europe with the bass player from the band Cake. Which is insult to injury, because I really love Cake. They're one of my favorite bands. I was like, really, Cake? Baby, you gotta take that from me. Like, you couldn't have left me for the guitarist from the Deftones? I don't listen to them. Had to be Cake. At the time that this all went down, I had a job at a restaurant. It was a private club. And they paid really, really well for a bussing position, like the most money you could make bussing tables at a private club. No cash was handled in the building, tips were built in, but it was also humiliating. They made us line up for an inspection every day, and we'd have to stand there and lift our pant leg up and let them see that we had the right color socks on. If they thought we might have been sneaking a stripe or two up higher, they'd be like, lift it more. And they'd walk down the whole line, and then they would turn and they'd walk back, and we'd all have to show them that we had a white t-shirt on. And then they would walk back again, and we'd all have to show them that we had a belt on. Someone told me that at one time they would even check to make sure you were wearing underpants, but Human Resources told them that was not a good idea. So as a result, I would often skip the underpants and try to make sure they knew. Go ahead, say something. Keith, wear an apron. Let's go. Humiliating job as it was, plus I didn't want to be there because this little philosophy major bass playing guy is wooing my girl. And I want to go spend time with her. And then I'm there in the lineup one day, and the boss comes by. His name was probably Ron, usually is. And he says, Keith, your vest is missing a button. I looked down, I went, oh man, I must have popped off. You're right. As soon as I get out of my shift today, I'm going to run and get a new button. Put it on there. He goes, Keith, you can't work with a missing button. And I went, oh my God, you're right. What was I thinking? What would happen? So I left, I went to the fabric store, and I bought a button and the smallest quantity of thread that you're allowed to buy and a single needle. And I went home and I sewed the button on. I showed up the next day, still not wanting to be there, grumpy, showed him my socks and my belt and my t-shirt, and he comes back by and he takes a good look at the button. Now I'm waiting for my compliment on my sewing, because my mom raised me right. And he says to me, Keith, that button doesn't match the other buttons. I said, what do you mean it doesn't match the other buttons? It's round, it's black, it's the same size. Like, well, how much is there to match? He said, Keith, the other buttons have 4 thread holes, and that button has 3 thread holes. And I went, oh my goodness, you're right. That's incredible. I will have to replace that button. I'm not even going to ask to work today. Whew, what would the customers say? Wrong button. Man, I'm glad you caught it. This could have been a disaster. As long as we have this extra button now, you can have it if you want. Figure maybe you could choke on it. Ron says, excuse me, Keith? I said, you don't really want me to repeat that, do you? He said, oh, you're fired. I was like, oh yeah, I know. You won't be needing me anymore. I'll be back in an hour for my check. Walked out.